Spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain pure devotion to service, I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My conscience purified, my words elevated, my lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection of fulfills all satisfaction. He opens my dark eyes and fills my heart with the sense of the Lord. He is my Lord, without the birth. From him stands the great happiness, my ignorance is destroyed. The rich riches in his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and all masters and devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout the three worlds. We take shelter to your lotus feet.
Our dear Lordship, Shri
please make us worthy of your mercy, so that the action and flourishing of us and happy devotees, bless us as you did, and especially love for you and your devotees.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I'm trying to finish sharp. Ask two questions, maybe a quarter past. Then we can adjourn.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivarajari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivarajari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Chamunasira Vanachari Chamunasira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivarajari
Gopijana Vallabha Girivarajari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivarajari
Gopijana Vallabha Girivarajari.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Vishnu Pata Mahasi Vivraj Charya Rasatavachika Srimad Abhay Charan Vinda Bhakti Vinda Swarnaraj Sri Prabhupada Ki Viskamibhiti Padmanacharya Sri Prabhupada Ki Jaya Vishnu Pata Mahasi Vivraj Charya Rasatavachika Srimad Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Sri Guru Parampara Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Sri Rupa Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sri Shadva Swami Prabhu's Ki Kamsakahor Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Sri Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Sri Maya Bhona Vidiptam Ki Sri Nalakshaj Kanath Dham Ki Dwakadharma Yodhya Dham Ki Angamai Jumnamai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Nigodam Harinam Sankatan Ki Sri Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Entirely Gaur Pramanam Glorious to the Son of the devotees. Glorious to the Son of the devotees. Glorious to the Son of the devotees. Glorious to the whole sweet Sri Guru Sri. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita, Let There Be a Temple. Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prabhupada sat in his room talking with Gunanada about finances. Where are the bills? Prabhupada asked. I am keeping duplicates, Prabhupada. Gunanada explained, showing him how he attached the bills to the vouchers. Tejas is keeping the originals in Delhi. This is just an explanation, Prabhupada replied. I am an auditor. I am not A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Don't you understand? The auditor wants to see the bills, not just your excuses. Throughout the day, Prabhupada would call in Gurudas, Sarabi, Mr. Lahadi, the engineer, and even the contractor, Mr. Ali Books. Although the contractor was Mohammedan, Prabhupada requested him, please do a nice job because this is Krishna's temple. If you work very nicely, Krishna will bless you. Prabhupada assured him that money would not be a problem. He would arrange that $10,000 a month would come from his temples in America until the construction was finished. It will be finished by Janmashtami, Prabhupada asked. Yes, Gurudas said firmly, it will be done. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. It's amazing that when you think, when you see the finished temple, all that very amazing design. Actually, it's not easy to actually take it all in because it's in a very tight space in Vrindavan, the Krishna Balaram temple. It's very hard to see it like all the way around because of where it's situated. But when you see photographs of it, it is like a very incredible design, and it's all in the top quality materials. So this Mohammedan contractor, Mr. Ali Books, is certainly blessed by Krishna. So Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1. The activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. Text 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Yata Bhagavan Adideva Itasya Guna Visargasya Ataha Bhagavan Adideva Itasya Guna Visargasya Ataha Bhagavan Adideva Itasya Guna Visargasya Paribrimhananujana Vyavasita Sakala Jagat Abhipraya Atmayoni Paribrimhananujana Vyavasita Sakala Jagat Abhipraya Atmayoni Akila Nigama Nija Prana Pariveshita Swa Bhavanat Avatatara Akila Nigama Nija Gana Pariveshita Swa Bhavanat Avatatara Ataha Bhagavan Adideva Itasya Guna Visagasya Ataha Bhagavan Adideva Itasya Guna Visargasya Paribrimhananujana Vyavasita Sakala Jagata Pripraya Atmayoni Paribrimhananujana Vyavasita Sakala Jagata Pripraya Atmayoni Akila Nigamani Jagana Pariveshita Swabhavanad Avatatara Akila Nigamani Jagana Pariveshita Swabhavanad Avatatara Okay, we'll just continue because it's not a standard meter, so unless anyone wants to try, does anyone like to try? Atta, thus, ha, indeed, Bhagavan, the most powerful, Adideva, the first demigod, Itasya, of this universe, Unavisagasya, the creation of the three modes of material nature, Paribrimhana, the welfare, Anujana, always thinking of, Vyavasita, known, Sakala, whole, Jagat, of the universe,
of the universe,
Abhipraya, by whom the ultimate purpose,
by whom the ultimate purpose,
Atma,
Atma,
the Supreme Self,
the Supreme Self,
Yoni,
Yogi,
whose source of birth,
whose source of birth,
Akila,
Akila,
all,
or
Nigama,
Nigama,
by the Vedas,
by the Vedas,
Nijagana,
Nijagana,
by personal associates,
by personal associates,
Pariveshkita,
by Veshita,
being surrounded,
being surrounded,
Swabhavanat,
Swabhavanat,
from his own abode,
from his own birth,
Avatatara,
Avatatara,
descended.
descended.
Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, the first created being and most powerful demigod in this universe is Lord Brahma, who is always responsible for developing universal affairs. Born directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he dedicates his activities to the welfare of the entire universe, for he knows the purpose of the universal creation. This supremely powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by his associates and the personified Vedas, left his own abode in the highest planetary system and descended to the place of Prince Priyavrata's meditation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Self, Atma, is the source of everything, as explained in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadhyasya Yataha. Because Brahma was born directly from Lord Vishnu, he is called Atma Yoni. It's also called Bhagavan. Although generally Bhagavan refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Lord Krishna, sometimes great personalities such as demigods like Lord Brahma, Narada or Lord Shiva are also addressed as Bhagavan because they carry out the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma is called Bhagavan because he is the secondary creator of this universe. He is always thinking of how to improve the situation of the conditioned souls who have come to the material world to enjoy material activities. For this reason, he disseminates the Vedic knowledge throughout the universe for everyone's guidance. Vedic knowledge is divided into two parts, Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg. Nivritti Marg is the path of negating sense enjoyment, and Pravritti Marg is the path by which the living entities are given a chance to enjoy, and at the same time are directed in such a way that they can go back home, back to Godhead. Because ruling over this universe is a great responsibility, Brahma must force many manus in different ages to take charge of universal affairs. Under each manu there are different kings who also execute the purpose of Lord Brahma. It is understood from previous explanations that the father of Dhruva Maharaj, King Uttanapad, ruled over the universe because his elder brother, Priyavrata, practiced austerity from the very beginning of his life. Thus, up to the point of the Prachetas, the kings of the universe were all descendants of Uttanapada Maharaj. Since there were no suitable kings after the Prachetas, Swayambhuva Manu went to the Gandhamadana hill to bring back his eldest son, Priyavrata, who was meditating there. Swayambhuva Manu requested Priyavrata to rule over the universe. When he refused, Lord Brahma descended from the supreme planetary system known as Satyaloka to request Priyavrata to accept the order. Lord Brahma did not come alone. He came with other great sages like Marichi, Atreya, and Vasishta to convince Priyavrata that it was necessary for him to follow Vedic injunctions and accept the responsibility of ruling over the world. Lord Brahma also brought with him the personified Vedas. his constant associates. A significant word in this verse is swabhavanat, indicating that Lord Brahma descended from his own abode. Every demigod has his own abode. Indra, the king of the demigods, has his own abode, as do Chandra, lord of the moon planet, and Surya, the predominating deity of the sun planet. There are many millions of demigods, and the stars and the planets are their respective homes. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Vrata Devam. Those who worship the demigods go to their different planetary systems. Lord Brahma's abode, the highest planetary system, is called Satyaloka, or sometimes Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka usually refers to the spiritual world. The abode of Lord Brahma is Satyaloka. But because Lord Brahma resides there, it is also sometimes called Brahmaloka. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Nishkapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Gudamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishkavamascha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kamita Radha Kamita Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhara Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hanshakala Tarubhyascha Kripasinabhye Visha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadigaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's an interesting history, as we've just read, about the renunciation of the Prachetas who were instructed by Narada Muni. Narada Muni is known for encouraging Kshatriyas to give up their attachment to material life and adopt renunciation and austerity. So Maharaj Priyabrat may have, because he's also accepted Narada Muni as his spiritual master, he might have been expecting that he would get some encouragement from his spiritual master for his many years of renunciation. But it's interesting here that Srila Prabhupada says that Lord Brahma is always thinking of how to improve the situation of the conditioned souls who have come to the material world to enjoy material activities. For this reason, he disseminates the Vedic knowledge throughout the universe for everyone's guidance. So Narada Muni, although he's famous for giving very strict instructions to his disciples to not engage in sense gratification, not engage in not engage in following a philosophy of sense gratification, but still he himself is personally traveling throughout the universe to give that instruction. He's taking that risk of traveling everywhere in the universe, and not just in the heavenly planets, not just in Satya Yuga, but he's, Narada Muni also, it's a famous story of Narada Muni giving instruction even to a very low-class man who made his living from killing animals, half killing them. So he, although superficially it may appear that Narada Muni favors the path of renunciation, that's not actually his mood. Like his father, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni is always thinking of how to please Krishna. How to please Krishna. And pleasing Krishna is by spreading knowledge of Krishna throughout the universe. It's actually described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. The last verse of chapter 6, first canto. Aho devashidanyo yam yat kirtan sangadandana kaya madhyamidam tantriya ramayat yataram jagat. All glory and success to Srila Narada Muni, because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead. And so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, no one is happy here within the universe, and what is felt as happiness is Maya's illusion. The illusory energy of the Lord is so strong that even the hog who lives on filthy stool feels happy. No one can be truly happy within the material world. So, Narada Muni is certainly aware of this because he had darshan of Krishna and he experienced the ecstasy of having Krishna's darshan. Similarly, Lord Brahma, when he came out of his very long meditation, and he received the Gayatri mantra from the divine Saraswati, and then by meditating on that Gayatri mantra, Lord Brahma received a vision of Goloka, of the spiritual world, and then he composed the Brahma Samhita prayers. So, Lord Brahma, one of his names is Vidhi, which means like one who is in the embodiment of Vedic rules and regulations. He's the embodiment of regulation in the universe. But he's never, he's carrying this knowledge of the spiritual world with him everywhere. And he always feels compassion for all the living entities. He's feeling compassion for Priyavrat Maharaj, who's become, in one sense you could say, he's become intoxicated by his austerities. He's become intoxicated by that sense of peace, thinking that by meditation and by practicing Bhakti Yoga in the process that was there in Satya Yuga, which was basically a meditative process, then the ecstasy that he was experiencing, that this was like the highest goal of life. But Maharaj Priyabrata was forgetting his duty to the Supreme Lord and his duty to his spiritual masters, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, and his father, King Uttanapada, Swayambhuva Manu. And he was like, yeah, he was getting caught up in the relative happiness that's there when one becomes free from the modes of passion and ignorance, when one comes to the mode of pure goodness, and then one feels extremely happy. But Lord Brahma came to remind him that the goal of life is not to be, the goal of life is to please Krishna, and to always be trying to please Krishna more and more. That this is actually the real goal of life, and that this actually, when practiced over continuously over a period of some time, brings a far, far greater ecstasy than the ecstasy derived from secluded meditation. So whenever we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, often these kind of pastimes, where there's kings who have been asked to take on the responsibility of family life and, generate more and more progeny and, look after the activities of the kingdom, often for thousands and thousands of years, like 36,000 years. I think that was Lord Ram and Maharaj Prithu, anyway, it was like, they were all like 10,000, 20,000 years. So to us, because we've come in contact with Srila Prabhupada, and we've just been like we've been immersed in the bliss of personal devotional service. So to us, it seems like almost torture to think that you would have to spend 20,000 years, being the president or the king. But externally, no doubt there were anxieties and difficulties and challenges because there were always demons on the planet. Even in Satyayuga, there were demoniac influences. So things didn't always go to plan. Even if the king was a pure devotee, even if the king was following fully the orders of Lord Brahma, still, demons came along. Maharaj Deva came along, Ravan, so many demons came to disturb the activities of those devotees who were in the mode of pure goodness. But because they were following the order of their spiritual masters, Narada Muni and Lord Brahma, and because those devotees were actually in the ecstasy of pure love for Krishna, then Krishna was very pleased that they were just executing the duties of their spiritual master. And therefore Krishna would always make arrangements to protect them. Even though sometimes from the past times in the Bhagavatam, sometimes it appears that these kings do actually get entangled in material activities, do get overly attached to their wives and their children, and sometimes get overly attached to hunting. But Krishna hasn't neglected them, because they are such great personalities, Krishna usually makes some arrangement whereby something will happen in their life, that they have some reawakening of their enthusiasm for renunciation, or Krishna will make an arrangement to send along one of his pure devotees to instruct them. So I'll stop there. Are there any questions, comments?
How do we not get distracted with the process of getting ourselves out of the material world?
How do we not get distracted by the process of getting ourselves out of the material world?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand that. Could you rephrase it?
How do we not become too absorbed in trying to extricate ourselves from the material world, that we become distracted from what our real business is?
What you mean, devotional service to Krishna?
Yeah.
Well, we have to get a taste. Yeah. I have to get a taste. Vishaya vinivatante niraharasya dehina rasavasam rasopyasya param drishva nivatate. Does anyone know the translation? So Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 59, I think.
The embodied soul may restrict from sense enjoyment until the taste of sense objects remains, but
ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. And in the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada says something very memorable. Unless one is transcendently situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga, in the matter of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc., is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are good, only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. So our attempts to extricate ourselves from the shackles of material life, that attempt is necessary as long as we have a taste for material things. It's always going to be a struggle. But when we get a taste for the beauty of Krishna, and especially when we get a taste for the adventures and pastimes of Srila Prabhupada and other pure devotees, when we get a taste for preaching, and like a real excitement for preaching, and then we no longer have to face this concept of a battle to extricate ourselves. Rather, we're like running ahead of the crowd. We're running ahead of the crowd to catch up with Srila Prabhupada so we can get some more exciting service. This is actually, it's interesting. I've been reading a lot of biographies of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and they all have different moods, very different actually, in their relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And Shyama Sundar Prabhu, who's writing a 3-volume memoirs of his service to Srila Prabhupada, he was always eager for some new instruction for Srila Prabhupada, especially if it was a very challenging service, because he had a very tangible experience that if you like throw yourself into the service of Srila Prabhupada, then Krishna consciousness is not a struggle at all. It's like an exciting adventure. I had this experience, one experience which I had actually when I used to do rock climbing when I was a teenager. And like usually in rock climbing, unless you're extremely proficient, there's like one climber stands at the top of the cliff, and he ties himself to the ground in some way, or he's got the rope around his waist, but the rope is also secured to the ground in some way, and some special knot that allows him to take some of the weight of the rope, but not that he has to take all of the weight of the rope. So in this way, when you're climbing with that safety rope there, then you, like in the beginning, it's like you're a little bit afraid, because you don't really believe that he can hold your weight, especially if he's smaller than you, and you don't really believe that he can hold your weight. So you're always in fear, and because you're in fear, then you're always in danger of slipping all the time, because you're nervous and you're not willing to make that bold move, because you think if I miss it, and then all the weight's going to go on my friend, and I'm not really convinced that he can hold me. But sooner or later, you'll actually fall off, and then you'll realize that he can actually take your weight. So from that point onwards, and when you've got that faith, then you'll go for more and more daring moves and holds. And then it even gets to the stage then when you're so intuitively connected to your body and to the rock that you'll do it without a rope at all. And not that I got to that stage myself. But climbers progress to the stage where they can hang on one finger, 10,000 feet up a cliff, literally, and because they've got faith in the ability, in some amazing ability that their brain and their body has got to be able to just really go for it. So similarly, when we get that taste of surrender, then we're no longer having to battle with extricating ourselves from the material world. And at that point, because we're in association with those devotees who are actually always in the spiritual world, then we actually become touched by that spiritual atmosphere. So it takes practice. It takes practice to gain that faith that your authority, your spiritual master, or the devotees who are authorized by the spiritual master to give you service. It takes some faith that even if you fall, you won't crash. So whenever there's a service that's not life-threatening, it's whenever there's an opportunity to do something which you've done before, then do it twice as well as, just always try to do it with as much possible energy and as much mental and physical endeavor as possible, and then you'll experience some reciprocation, and then you'll get the param drishtva, because this higher taste, it doesn't just mean a taste in the sense of tasting. Drishva means an appreciation, it means an understanding, and it encompasses all the senses, and it also encompasses the mind and the intelligence. So Drishta actually means realization. So yeah, I was fortunate to have that experience. I guess if you think about your teenage years, almost everybody probably did something which was like some daredevil activity, where in the beginning they thought that it was completely impossible, but that gradually they gained some experience that it was possible. So, is that helping you, or is that help answering the question?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, it's quite a simple thing, isn't it? We can become a little bit distracted sometimes by the kind of mechanics. What's going on? It's like Jananda Maharaj was saying the other day, you can be going 50 years in devotional service, and neophytes just get caught judging each other all the time. And then they neglected the most important thing, which is to change the heart. And he was saying, if you can just open your heart to Krishna, and let Krishna come in, which is real humility, then everything will go forward, everything will change. Otherwise you'll be spinning in circles, judging others, and then judging you for 50 years. So try to kind of focus more on on changing ourselves. Worried about what's going on externally.
Yeah, because what's going on externally is like very, very temporary, and we're all eternal. So it's like completely insignificant. Yeah, because we don't know who everyone is, but we do know that we're all part of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, and Srila Prabhupada said that there's also an ISKCON in the spiritual world. So, let's practice now. Let's practice now to be part of that ISKCON, so that we can, gain our tickets back to the ISKCON in the spiritual world. Grantra Sri Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai, entire Lord Pranam.
Javat, Vasi,
Jantamoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna.